Hi, this is Yurong, founder of Maxma. Today I'm going to show you how to launch your first incrementality test for free in minutes. If you haven't yet, go to maxma.ai, hit the try for free button so you can sign up and get your free access. Every account can run one test for free completely. And once you're in the app, go to Experiment, GeoLift, and this is where you'll land. This used to cost companies over $100K for an annual contract, and we're making it accessible and instant with the help of AI. On the left side, this is the AI expert that will guide you throughout the process from design a test, launch a test, to measure the results. The first step is to define the goals for the test. For example, which channel, tactic, or campaign would you like to measure incrementality of? And do you want to measure it in certain markets, like the United States? And what are the KPIs you want to measure incrementality against? If you don't know the answer yet, don't worry. This will all get much clearer after the guided conversation with the AI consultant. One thing to highlight is that this tool is ad platform agnostic. You can use it to test the campaigns running on different ad platforms as long as the platform supports geotargeting. By geotargeting, I mean you are allowed to show ads only to audiences in certain regions, but not audiences in some other regions. This way, you can have a control versus test setup needed for the incrementality test, and you compare the two groups and conclude with the incremental of your marketing. And in terms of the granularity of the geos, you can do it at DMA level in the US, states, or regions, or cities, or even zip codes, depending on the needs, which we'll talk about it later. Let's now move on to define the metrics and KPIs. Let's say we like to measure campaigns' impact on total orders as a DTC brand. You're also allowed to add additional metrics to maximize the insights you can get from one test. For example, we like to include revenue as well. And you can also add metrics like orders for a different sales channel, let's say Amazon orders. You can also break down your KPI by customer segment. Let's say you can have orders coming from new customer only as another metric. And you're allowed to add up to 4 secondary metrics besides the primary metric. And here is a summary of our goals and KPIs for the test. And now we're ready to move on to the next stage. The next step is called power analysis. At the end of the step, you'll get specific configuration for the test. For example, the duration, the budget, what regions to be put on the test side and what regions to be put on the control side, so you can go ahead to launch the test. It is called power analysis because the tool will come up with options with the most statistical power, so you're allowed to detect even small lift in the data. The next step is called power analysis. You can interact with the AI to configure the power analysis / the test. For example, here I was asked about the current weekly budget for the campaign I'm going to test. Let's say it's 10K per week. And it asks your preference for the duration of the test. Let's say we want to get the results quicker. And now it's asking you about the preference for the holdout size. Let's say we can turn off ads in up to 30% of the regions. Now it collects all the information needed to set up the test, and it already populated the parameter in the configuration panel. You can see my weekly budget and also our preferred range for the test duration and holdout size. Now it's time to upload the data. The AI consultant has provided what the data should look like. But if you have questions, you can always ask it. Basically, we need one CSV for each metric. And inside the CSV, we need to have the value for the metric by day, by geolocation. And one thing to highlight is that here, we need the total value for that metric without any attribution. So for example, if you're a Shopify merchant, This data should come from Shopify instead of any ad platform. In terms of how to determine the geo granularity, you can determine it based on several factors. One, do you have data available at this level for your metric? Also, can you do geo-targeting for the ad platform at this level? Most digital platforms allow all different levels of granularity for geo-targeting, whether it's DMA in the US, state or province, or city. Some platforms even allow zip code. And three, you want to get to a good number of geos. Usually, DMA or state or province is the recommended level of granularity for doing a geo-based incrementality testing. Now we've uploaded the data, we can move ahead to run the power analysis. But before that, we can add additional configuration. Let's say we don't want to turn off ads in certain markets. In that case, you can include those markets in the test market. For example, let's include San Francisco and Los Angeles in the test markets. And now let's kick off running the power analysis. This step can take a few minutes depending on how big your data is and how wide the range of configurations are. While you're waiting, it's totally fine to close the page and come back later. Now the power analysis has finished. It returned 3 different test options with different duration, budget, loadout size, test versus control markets. They are provided after the tool doing a pretty extensive search on the different options that stay within your constraints, at the same time maximize statistical power. If you don't know which one to choose, you can ask the AI consultant. Here, it mentioned that option 3 has the most statistical power. It can detect even small lift in both metrics. Option 2 has the shortest duration. However, it don't have enough statistical power to detect lift in the revenue metric. You can also look at how good the design is by looking at this visualization. It shows the time series of your metric between test and control markets over time. A good design should have these 2 lines track very closely over time before the test. This means your test markets and control markets look very similar. So after the test launch, if there's lift in the test site, you can confidently infer that those lift comes from the marketing campaign. If you don't find a desirable test design, you can hit the redesign test button. It will unlock the configurations so you can reset them and rerun the power analysis to come up with a new set of designs. Otherwise, you can move ahead to launch the test. Just hit the launch test button. The AI consultant will tell you how to implement the test in the ad platform. Essentially, you'll need to modify a campaign to turn off ads in the control regions, as well as following the guidance on the budget and the duration. In the future, Maxma will integrate with ads platforms, so those configurations are pushed to the ads platform directly. But for now, you do need to set it up manually. After the test is finished, your campaign can go back to its business as usual settings or any settings you want. And you will come back to the Maxma platform to provide updated data for the metrics, but this time covering the test period. And the tool will detect the lift by comparing the control versus test markets for the metrics. This time, you should see a gap between the control versus test if there's lift. You should also see the cumulative lift. It usually continues to climb even after the test is finished, meaning there's lingering effect